Welcome to the Steve Reeve Podcast with the best moments from the past week and a few things that didn't make it to air.
Welcome to a special edition episode of the Steve Reeve Podcast. I'm going to be chatting with several members of our local Fort McMurray music scene, all featured on and heavily involved in the homegrown holiday piece of history, the Northern Lights Christmas album. These interviews aired originally through November and into December on Fridays as part of the local wildcard feature on the show. Enjoy. It's about to be released to the public, the Northern Lights Christmas album. Andrew Potty is here with me, local musician with the Border Pines, as well as, you just do music and art all over town. So how you doing today?
Good, Steve. Thanks for having me in this morning. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been chilly, getting to the end of the week here. We're lucking out somewhat in November. It's kind of hit and miss, but you can't help but think it's looking a lot like Christmas.
I still haven't winterized my back deck, but I hear it's supposed to be like 9 degrees this weekend or something. So
yeah,
counting on
fingers crossed for any of that we can get through the colder months. For people who are completely out of the loop on this, there is a local Christmas album. To my knowledge, it's the first of its kind for Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo.
It's the only one I'm aware of.
Exactly, yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time that this has happened in our community. All local musicians putting this together, from the brain of Brian at the music room at the All In Sports Den, who we're big fans of that spot, of course. How did you come onto this project? Because I'm looking at the credits at the back of the album. You're all over this thing.
I've done quite a bit on it. So it started with me. I was down at All In Sports Den at the music room. I was checking out some records. Brian asked me there if I was interested in getting involved. They were in talks with Composite High School there. Dan Gillies is the music teacher there.
For sure, they got the recording facility. Yeah.
Yeah, so they hooked us up with the room. I brought all my studio equipment down there and got it set up. That was on July 15th, and from there, we started scheduling the local musicians in. I recorded 11 of them. 2 of them were recorded elsewhere.
Yeah.
A whirlwind of having various artists come in. Fortunately, they're all local, so I know all of them, which
sure.
makes it a lot easier. And it's good for them, too, because they're a lot more comfortable having some, a familiar face there as well, helping them out.
Yeah.
Because there are some people there. Some of the people on this record, first time ever recording anything. Others, you get Tyler Whalen on there. He's got lots of recording experience.
Yeah.
And those guys were a treat to work with.
Most of the tracks in here, it seems like if you weren't completely involved across the board, you're at least throwing the drum track in there, right?
Yeah, I put drum tracks on 3 songs, and then some of the other songs, I would add in some shaker, maybe a little tambourine.
Yeah.
And I mixed it all too before I went off to the plant for mastering and pressing.
That's really cool. And so you mentioned in July, if you're going to have something that's available for Christmas, it's got to happen before Christmas. So literally Christmas in July. What was that experience like, getting into the holly jolly spirit when it's very warm out?
It was funny. Most of July half of July and about half of August I spent with Christmas music in my ears.
So it's available at the All In Sports Den as of next week, November 12th.
That's
which
right.
Is wild. It's so soon. And then big release party that's going to be happening. That's on the 7th of December. So we're getting right into the holidays. I think this is going to be a really cool, unique kind of gift. I see you brought one of these, the actual vinyl LP, into the studio.
Yeah.
It's my first time seeing it. So this is so cool. Cover art by Russell Thomas Art and Birdsong Studios. I really recommend everybody buy every single copy that you can. Sell this thing out, because I can only imagine what happens when things sell out. There's often a sequel.
Well,
maybe. I don't want to get ahead of things, but maybe.
I think there's about 26 musicians that are on this album, and there's a lot more than 26 musicians in Fort McMurray. And I almost felt bummed out that so many people aren't on it. There is a lot of room for volume 2.
Yeah, so we'll just leave it there with a big question mark. That would be very cool. But first things first, buy the first issue of Northern Lights Christmas. Again, available November 12th. Thanks for coming in and talking to me. We're going to have more musicians and people involved in this album and this project throughout November and into December. So keep on listening. Friday mornings, you'll be able to get a little bit more detail about this homegrown project. Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Steve. Everyone's very excited about this.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
All through November and a little bit into December, I'm featuring some local musicians on Fridays here on Cruz Mornings that have some involvement in this really cool homegrown album. Now, it just came available to buy, Northern Lights Christmas, out of the All In Sports Den, the music room, and got some of the collaborators that are appearing on the album. Max Noseworthy, as well as Ruben Rotar and Mike Saunders, members of, but not the whole roster, of Surface Below. How you guys doing today? Thanks for coming in.
Great. How are you?
Good. So, I mean, exciting. It's just launching this album. When did you guys come onto this? Because, it's a funny thing to think that when Christmas albums, Christmas movies, all that stuff actually arrive for Christmas, they were made at a time when it wasn't Christmas. So what was your story? What was it like getting brought on board to this?
I think, Mike, you were approached first by Brian, weren't you? Because I remember when you called me and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this song or be a part of this album? And do you think you could maybe write a song? And I was like, big challenge to myself. So I said, yes, absolutely. And then I started being nervous about writing a song.
Of course, yeah.
I wanted to do Silent Night. When I talked to Max, he said, yeah, I think writing a song is a great idea. And I heard and played a lot of the songs that he's written in the past, and they were all amazing. So I said, hey, this is going to be great. And it turned out awesome.
I have to imagine a daunting thing to kind of approach Christmas music and be like, we're going to write an original with so many well-known standards. But every once in a while, a new song becomes a Christmas standard.
It was pretty daunting for me because I'm horrible at procrastinating. So I basically, I waited till I waited till 3 days before we were recording. Some things in my head, I wanted to write a song that had a lot of places that the band has played in that meant a lot to us, or to myself for like personal growth, places that really helped me and my friends get better together, or increase in mental health actually, so it's related to this album. But I had the couple of pickup catches in my head, and when I sat down in front of the computer screen and started typing, it just flowed out of me.
Very cool that it's original music. It's not just homegrown, home recorded, but the work of our Fort McMurray artists is, the heart is in there as well. So when did you guys actually hit the recording studio?
I think it was in August, yeah, and it was so we got through it so quick. I mean, Mike and Ruben and Fred and Jess are such amazing musicians. We just had the thing recorded in like 2 hours. Yeah, it was just a super success story. If all songs were that easy, I'd have 7 albums.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If only. Yeah, some of them just fall into the world, fully shaped, fully formed. Some of them take months, years. So you put it in a couple hours, and then waiting game. And now it's finally arrived. Have you heard anything from anybody yet?
I'm hearing that it's great. Everyone that hears it says it's a great song. I mean, I think it's a hit myself. I'm really proud that me and the boys put it together so quick. Me and Ruben were in his living room for like an hour and a half and just had the chords just fell right into place. And then Mike came over and whipped up the bass line. Like, the bass line in the song is fantastic. The piano's fantastic. I just think the whole song to me is, I'm just super proud of the boys and myself and Jess about this song. It's great.
I'm talking to Max and Mike and Ruben with Surface Below, who contributed to this Northern Lights Christmas album that is now available in town, fully homegrown and benefiting the Canadian Mental Health Association Wood Buffalo chapter. So if you had a Christmas wish, it would be for everybody to hear it, right?
I would love for everyone to hear it. And it's kind of the reason why I wrote the song the way I did. It's Christmas in Canada. So I include a bunch of different towns, and I'm just hoping that people get to hear it, to hear how much I love Canada, and the boys, I put their sentiment in the words as well, because like I said, the towns I name are places that we played in the past that meant a lot to us. So. Yeah.
Well, I mean, so Fort McMurray is a place that brings people from all over the country, all over the world to come and be part of our community. So, I mean, are you guys, where are you guys from, just as an experiment, out of curiosity?
I come from Nova Scotia, and Margarettsville specifically.
From Glovertown, Newfoundland.
Glovertown? And yourself, Max?
I'm from Gamo, Newfoundland, which is 20 minutes away. The funny thing is, me and Mike didn't meet each other really until we moved to Fort McMurray. So what you said is absolutely true.
Absolutely true. And, you guys might have been at the same Christmas tree lot a few times in the past and now here in Fort McMurray, right?
The Christmas tree lot in Newfoundland is, I'm sure what Max too, is me and us and our dads going out with a chainsaw. And then going back to the house, and then Mom saying that one wasn't good enough. Then going back out in the woods.
Don't take your boots off.
Coming home and Mom saying that one still wasn't good enough. So now it's dark. I'm holding the old D-cell powered flashlight, trying to make it through the woods with the dog nipping at my heels. Put out a lot of sneers during this time too as well, though, so we ended up with a bunch of rabbits. But then usually the third tree, then Mom would end up picking the first tree, and my dad would always just smile because That's the way.
That's the way of it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't have too far of an experience growing up in Fort McMurray. I can tell you, we were out there with the hand axe every once in a while. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Of course, Northern Lights Christmas available as of just this week. It came out on the 12th. There's also a release party for the album on December 7th. It's going to be happening at Kicking Horse. So thank you guys for taking the time, and everybody listen up for the album and grab a copy. It's going to be great to have for you, for a gift for somebody. I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, guys.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Alexa, play the Steve Reeve podcast.
In a series throughout November of artists that are involved in, that were collaborators on this really cool homegrown holiday project, the Northern Lights Christmas album, I've been talking to some of the musicians every Friday this month, and this time it's Dan Gillies joining me in studio. How you doing today?
Steve, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's out now. As of last week, you brought in a copy of the album on vinyl. They're available, of course, from the music room at the All In Sports Den. How excited are you?
I'm so excited. I definitely had an early press release to kind of listen to before it was officially released.
For sure. I'm glad about that.
Oh, yeah. And I showed my kids, and they're like, we don't want to hear Christmas music. It's not even Halloween, Dad. I'm like, this is your dad. Anyway, they don't care. But yeah.
To release something for Christmas, you got to record before Christmas. So what was it like? When did the project start for you?
Yeah, so we were talking about this, my gosh, in the springtime. I think I'll have to check my messages, but we definitely had it for, it's a Christmas record. We're going to record it in July, and that's the thing. You record Christmas records in July. And so it really picked up in the summertime. And Steve, I did bring a Christmas tree and an ugly sweater and some of my wife's nice crochet, stockings, and we made it look Christmassy. It was, yeah.
So you were responsible for the proper ambience.
Well, no one asked me to. I kind of thought it would help maybe, but yeah.
So you got recruited, and then it was recording time, and a lot of this recorded at the recording studio at the Composite High School downtown, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a wonderful facility at Composite High School, one of the best areas, I think. It was a music room, music studio at one point, a makeshift studio right now, so we knew we needed an engineer. So we had the space, we had the glass, we had what we needed, and soundproofing, but we needed the engineer who also brought all of his own equipment. And Andrew set up the best portable studio I've ever seen in my whole life.
That's really cool. Yeah. That room, that was my band room, right? When I was in high school.
Yeah.
There's music is in the walls there.
And you were a drummer?
A percussionist.
Okay,
for
that's
sure.
the vibe I got.
Not to be
that's the vibe
pretentious about it, but they had me on all kinds of instruments.
Yeah, timpani. That's wicked, Steve.
During Winter Wonderland,
yes.
The whip crack was my job. The clip clops.
Yes. Yeah. I think we still have some of those from back in the day. Yeah.
I'm flashing back. But anyway, so when you were recording this, getting yourself into the Christmas spirit of things in the middle of the summer.
Yes.
And now we're, flash forward a few months later, it's actually out at the music room. What was release day for you like?
You know what? It's just, it was really special. I think the number one takeaway for me was how joyful everyone was and still is. We have a group chat that is always lit up with all the musicians and Brian, and there's lots of pictures and lots of emojis, and everyone was really, really excited when the boxes showed up. We had like a scene by scene. Now we're opening the boxes. Now we're this. It was quite cool. Yeah.
What is something that is going to last for you? Traditions, memories are a part of the holidays.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's hard to pinpoint how memories work, but I really, without sounding too cheesy, I really liked working with the musicians in Fort McMurray. I got to kind of be there. Andrew was, I like to say he was Brian Eno. I wasn't for sure. I like to think I was Daniel Lanois. So I was kind of on the side, maybe a couple tips here or there. I was kind of, but I loved spending time with Andrew, great guy, and I loved spending time with all of these musicians that came in, and what a privilege it is to just be like with your brothers and sisters in arms. It was just so cool to be with musicians for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So.
Talking about this Northern Lights Christmas album. Dan, you appear on it. Several of our local musicians do. The first guest that we had in November was Andrew Ponte, who appears on it, but also mixed the whole thing together. And as you mentioned, made the studio into a great situation, a great place for everybody to gather and put this together. But, not everybody who is a musician in our midst in Fort McMurray was able to appear on this. But I noticed very subtly on the spine, it says Volume 1. So, I feel there's potential for another. How would you feel about Round one too?
Okay, so first of all, I know, like, I wasn't part of the selection process for the artists that were chosen. I know there was some issues regarding time constraints. We had to record it in July, who was available. There was some things like that. But I know that it was brought up that there are a lot of artists that we love that are not on this record. And me, selfishly, like, I'll name drop Chantel Davidson.
Yeah.
Michaela. I mean, there's so many, Maddie Parley, there's so many great local performing regulars that were not on this record. And that was something we talked about during the recording process and after, was like, we have to do a volume 2, at very least, to just get more musicians and showcase all of our talent. So
doing something that hadn't been done before, as far as we all know. This is a first of its kind. So one good turn, I think, deserves another, but in time.
Yes.
In due time.
Yeah, give us 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. And in the meantime, soak this one up and definitely grab it for your collection. It's a great, unique Christmas gift, I think, not just for people that are in town, but there's a lot of East Coast flavor on this album as well. So send some out to the Maritimes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I got to say, Max's original tune is so good. I mean, we all picked our favorite Christmas tunes and covers and stuff that we could, play well. But, Max wrote "Christmas Time in Canada," and it's a great, it could be a single. It really could be a single.
There's new standards all the time. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
Totally.
We'll see.
Totally.
And yeah, that's it. Just it. There is some original tunes on this album as well. Thank you so much for taking the time, Dan. Is there any final thought you wanted to give?
Yeah, I think it's one of these situations where everything is so good around this album. The energies were so positive. Everyone was so unified, and just it was a beautiful experience recording it, producing it. We have the best of the best, and it's just a unified, joyful effort. So not only is it a Christmas record, but like everyone had a lot of joy making this record. Nothing but positive energy, and on top of all of that, the proceeds go to a good cause. So I mean, this is kind of like, you should buy it, and that's not me. I'm not making any money on this. Everyone should buy a record, and you won't fit it in a stocking, but you don't need to fit records in stockings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Canadian Mental Health Association is who's benefiting. So it's going to give you the warm and fuzzies in many different ways. I hope you have a great time as you see the rollout of this release and all the way to the big day, to the holidays. Dan, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Steve.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
Joining me for another local wildcard edition focused on the Northern Lights Christmas album, which is a homegrown holiday piece of history now. A lot of local musicians represented on it. I'm joined by two of the members of Crosswind right now. It's James Johnstone and Christina Gidge. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Great.
Busy time of year, so I'm so glad you guys were able to take some time, just a little bit of time since the official release of this holiday album on vinyl from the All In Sports Den, the Music Room specifically. How's the reception been for you guys?
It's been a great response, actually. It's been pretty positive. Just being a part of this in general has just been amazing.
Yeah, lots of excitement so far. Pretty cool project to have gotten a chance to work on, yeah.
So when did you guys come on board for the project? Like, when did it start for you guys?
For us, I just walked into the All In Sports Den one day, and Brian asked me right away. He said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, because he's already talked to Mike at that point. And I said, well, Mike, I said, absolutely, man, I'm on board with this. So I have 3 bands that I play in. So instantly I just reached out to everybody, first being Crosswind and the other 2 bands, and it said instantly, we're all on board.
Yeah.
So within that week, we had everybody on board, which was great.
That's a quick turnaround.
It was.
To gather the troops, yeah.
And it was probably one of the easiest things to put together.
On the back of the album right here, it's Christmas Baby Please Come Home that Crosswind does. What is it like tackling like a standard like that? It's a lot of Christmas music, a lot of different people have had their voices on. What was it like making it your own?
Amazing, actually.
Yeah.
We for all the bands, especially with Crosswind, we really did sit down, and, with Doug and Adam, and we actually just really kind of looked at it and said, how can we make this our own? You know what I mean? And we put we basically our heads together and we got it done.
So cool. And labor of love, I'm sure a lot of work to get this done. Crazy to see it printed on vinyl, pressed on vinyl. First time having something on vinyl?
For myself, it is.
For yourself? Yeah. For many of the people that I've talked to, they're going, this is a wild dream come true.
Exactly. I've been in a lot of studios, and it's been cassette tapes to CDs. It's never been vinyl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's something I could check off now.
Yeah,
it's done, right?
Let's scratch that off the list. There's a big party that's coming as well to celebrate the release of this. Kicking a Horse is going to be making sure that everybody's joining December 7th to really celebrate this. It's album release in support of the Canadian Mental Health Association Wood Buffalo chapter and everything. Not your first party, I'm sure, but you guys must be excited.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Super cool to have us all in the same room. Rare to be able to have so many artists in one place. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
it's going to sell out for
gonna
sure.
be cool.
Like, guaranteed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This won't take long. I say by the end of this week, this will be sold out.
Yeah. Such a cool thing to be able to support live music. I mean, I know it took a hit for the pandemic. Everybody knows it, and it's been slow to get back. But local music, live music, it's so important and so vital to have, and just to have this incredible eclectic group of the musicians of Fort McMurray, and still only a slice of the musicians of the community to be able to come together for this. It's just totally cool. I keep asking everybody, because it isn't everybody who plays guitar, plays drums, plunks on the piano around town, sings, that is on the album, because you just can't fit everybody on the album. But how do you guys feel about like a volume 2 in the future?
Oh, that's got to happen. I mean, that's the thing about Fort Mac too, is that there is so many good artists here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't fit them all on one album. So you got to make a second one, obviously, right?
Cross the bridge when you get there. Celebrate
100%.
this one coming out. For now, be satisfied with that. But I feel absolutely on the horizon. Has to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And just, like you said, there are so many talented people in this town. I mean, there are people who just record in a basement or in a garage, and that's how they get their music out there. There are people that are just live bands that are out in the bars and making things happen. And then you got the kitchen musicians that are just entertaining when people are gathered around for dinner and stuff like that. They bring the guitar out. I've been at incredible impromptu kitchen concerts, really talented people here. So I would love to see this become, a legacy project and keep going on in the future.
I agree.
But that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. December 7th, release party is going to be going down.
But it's great. We have a big music schedule. It's going to start at 6 o'clock, and it's not going to end till 2 in the morning. So it's going to be music all night. So to basically have that many musicians in one spot in one night, it probably won't happen again.
Yeah, it's a little bit unheard of, and I want people to know about that. Like, this is an unprecedented thing. First album of its kind in town. It's going to be a gigantic release party when that happens on the 7th of December. I got to remember the date, 7th. Tickets are not going to last until the 7th. I don't know if you're going to be able to go by the door. You got to grab them now.
100%. And all the proceeds, going to the mental health rate. So that's most important to us, right?
Yeah, and I've heard that from everybody that I've talked to so far, which is not everybody who's even appearing on the album, but all the interviews that I've been able to do with artists appearing, everybody says the same thing. It's for a great cause, feel good, holiday celebration. Like, I don't know if there's a single loss in here. It's all win across the board. Get your rest in where you can. James John Stone, Christina Gidge of Crosswind. Thank you guys so much for hanging out.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
You're listening to the Steve Reeve Podcast from 100.5 Cruz FM.
Joining me here in the studio from the All In Sports Den and the Music Room, it is Brian Wyatt. So, first of all, hello. How you doing? I know it's a very busy week.
Very busy week. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and for those listening, we've had a series going all through November, and now we find ourselves in December, where we've been talking to some of the local musicians on Fridays who are involved in this Northern Lights Christmas album. I've got it right here in my hands. The vinyl is available to buy from the Music Room at the All In Sports Den, and now I've got the brains behind the operation. The idea kind of came right from you, and you've been spearheading it, certainly not alone, with help.
Of course.
But I want to hear the story. How did this come to be?
Last year, I was sitting, we were watching a local childhood friend of mine. He was playing at one of the local bars, and we like getting out seeing as much live music as possible. Yeah. And I just sat there, and it just struck me that there's just so much talent here in town. And it just came in my head, and I said to my daughter and my wife, I said, I'm going to do a Christmas album with local musicians for charity. And they looked at me very strange. And then when Mike Saunders, who's on the album, came and sat down, he was the one we were watching. I mentioned it to him. He goes, Brian, I'm in.
Yeah, already.
Whatever you need.
1,000%. And I have to imagine that's probably a pretty similar reaction to some of the musicians that you started to sort of gather up like the Avengers to make this album happen.
Yeah, it was exactly that. So, having the music store downtown, obviously we get to know the musicians because they're in the store and stuff. So, yeah, I reached out to James Johnston was my second call. And he said, yeah, Brian, whatever you need, I'll talk to the bands. And he added 3 tracks. Which originally we thought there was going to be a 10-track album.
Yeah.
So once you have 4 out of 10 kind of in your back pocket, it was just a matter of then reaching out and filling kind of the vibe of what we were trying to do.
Yeah, the holiday train is moving at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually happening. Canadian Mental Health Association of Wood Buffalo is benefiting from the album, as well as the event that's going to be tomorrow. I can't believe it's already here.
It's crazy.
But the release party for this album is happening at Kicking Horse.
So people can pick up tickets at the store, obviously. We are also offering delivery now, so if someone wants to call, we can actually bring our payment machine straight to their house, and we can take the payments right there. And we'll also accept e-transfer, and people can pick up the tickets right at the event.
Yeah, so I mean, that might be one of the easiest ways. If you can't find your way down in time to grab a ticket and you don't want to leave anything to chance, absolutely reach out and get that digitally and then go to the event tomorrow night. And this is an unheard of amount, like I feel unprecedented number of our local musicians coming together for a Saturday night bar show. Tons of people are coming.
Tons of people are coming, and it was actually the musicians that got together and actually created the date that worked best for them as a group. And that's what I'm most proud of about this whole project is the sense of community.
Yeah.
The sense of community received by the actual people that are now purchasing the album, the music community that was so open-armed to create the project to begin with.
Yeah.
And everybody's so absolutely selfless. I couldn't be more proud.
Don't go anywhere. Chatting with Brian Wyatt from the All In Sports Den, the music room, the source of this Christmas album, homegrown holiday album, A Northern Lights Christmas. We're going to chat more in just a little bit. Still chatting with Brian Wyatt from the music room at the All In Sports Den, brains behind Northern Lights Christmas. I bet it must feel, you let me know, it must feel weird to sort of be called like the person behind this album, because it certainly is an effort of an entire village.
I've actually had a lot of trouble taking any credit whatsoever because the artists are obviously the ones that, that's what you're seeing, whether it's the Russell Thomas cover art or listening to all the local artists. But people keep reminding me, hey, Brian, if you don't have the idea, it doesn't happen. So I guess technically I'm the producer of the album, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I mean, nobody does. Nobody does, really. But it exists now. I mean, it's a physical thing, an artifact, a first of its kind as far as we know in Fort McMurray history. And, whether you even have the record player or not, by the way, you can get yourself one at the music room. You can grab this, put it on the wall, because it is a piece of art. And it's a great gift as well for people for the holidays for this year.
Absolutely. I'm sending them to people that I know don't have players just because it's so important to me. I want them to have a piece of what we've done here.
So cool. And I mean, as well, thinking of gift giving, I know it's a little early maybe for a stocking stuffer, but grabbing tickets for somebody for the show for tomorrow night is a great way to do it. Not completely sold out yet, but I imagine it's going to get a crush of people at the door to fill in the rest of the tickets that are available. So if you don't want to be left out in the cold, then definitely get yourself a ticket ahead of time. I see you can also kind of double up with 2 tickets and a copy of the album on vinyl, or there's even the VIP table for 4.
That's right.
Inquire within when you go to the music room at the All In Sports Den. We don't have enough time to talk about this album. There's so many stories behind the creation of this, I'm sure. But what did it feel like when the idea of original music came to the table? Did you expect any new songs to come out of this?
I wasn't 100% sure what we were going to get. I was fairly confident that when I contacted Dale Fortier, former McMurray resident, I was fairly confident he was going to want to do an original. When Max brought the idea of an original, again, it just speaks to the immense talent that is in the community. And we certainly didn't shut anything down. And once we heard Max's song, it's like amazing. And Tyler's song is equally as incredible. Yeah. And for anybody that spent any actual length of time in Fort McMurray, Dale's song just hits us all, talking about the different decades right here in town.
Yeah, and so there's real, and not just Fort McMurray history because it's the first of its kind being produced here, but Fort McMurray history because the roots, they run deep with the songs and the voices that you're going to be able to hear when you get this album. Put it on to do some decorating if you haven't. Put it on Christmas Eve, put it on Christmas Day, and really celebrate the homegrown holiday album that is the Northern Lights Christmas. Thank you for having the idea, Brian.
Well, thanks for you guys as well. You've made everybody on the album feel like rock stars with the interviews and everything, and then all the promotion, and it's creating almost a little celebrity thing around and buzz around the whole project.
I love it so much. And I see out of the corner of my eye here, you've brought a little something for us. Is this something for us to put on the walls?
Yes, so this is a framed copy of the album with a little peekaboo of the actual vinyl, and again, this is to say thank you for all of your guys' support.
You're actually making my eyes well up a little bit. This is so cool, and we're going to find a place of pride on the wall for this. This is going to be hanging for years to come. Thank you so much, Brian, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely will.
Transmission over. Want more Steve? New podcast episodes happen every Friday, or just tune into the Steve Reeve Show. Weekday mornings starting at 5:30 a.m. on 100.5 Cruz FM.